Welcome to the first episode of Prominent Pets, the podcast where we help people learn about all of the different household animals known as pets. In this episode, we will focus on the extremely popular dogs and cats. So again, welcome to Prominent Pets, the podcast where we discuss and inform you of recent developments in the wild world of pet ownership. We are your hosts, Alex Olson
and Allison Strauss.
Before we get started, we'd like to give you some background on who we are. We are a couple who has each had their own individual experience with pet ownership. For me, growing up, we always had a combination of dogs and cats at our house. Usually 2 dogs and 1 cat. When I turned 18 and moved out, I adopted 2 cats of my own, as well as an exotic freshwater fish. A few years later, after meeting Allison and moving into a house, we adopted 2 dogs from the Bay Area Humane Society.
When I was growing up, we always had 2 cats, and when I was in high school, we actually had a dog. Once I moved out, I had a few cats of my own, and now, of course, we have our 2 dogs together. I also volunteer at the Humane Society 1 day a week walking dogs, so I have some experience with other dogs that are not ours.
And that's that. We currently live in our home with our 2 dogs, Izzy and Penny, as you can see here. Each episode of our show will focus on a different type of pet and will be divided up into 3 parts.
Part 1 will explain history of the animals, Part 2 will focus on adoption tips, and Part 3 will finish strong with adoption stories.
So without further ado, let us begin Part 1. So, dogs. Most people love them, and science can tell us a lot about their past. It was originally believed that humans first began domesticating canines about 15,000 years ago in the Middle East. There is evidence of Siberian wolves dating back 35,000 years. However, no evidence of domestication exists. Based on genetic studies, most dog breeds come from China and Eastern Europe.
Scientists think that at first, canines would simply follow around nomadic human tribes because they learned they could scavenge for leftovers from them. It is believed that this blossomed into a mutual relationship. The rest is history, literally.
Dog breeds have evolved over time, changing which dogs are sought after most. In the 1800s, protective and hunting dogs were the most popular. Breeds like the St. Bernard and the Beagle. Today, cute and energetic dogs are the most popular, particularly the Labrador and Golden Retrievers.
And now for some history on cats.
Domestication of cats can be dated back about 4,000 years to ancient Egyptian times. Historians say Egyptians were the first to domesticate cats, using them to keep rats and certain insects away from their food supplies. They viewed felines as great hunters and actually worshipped them as gods and goddesses.
Eventually, cats were introduced in Italy and immediately became popular throughout Europe. It's no surprise that cats come from lions and tigers, and they're actually still quite similar to them, just smaller in size. Their shape, body language, grooming habits, and athleticism are basically still the same. Statistically, the most popular breed of household cat is the black and white tabby cat. So now that we've covered some history surrounding dogs and cats, let's go over some tips regarding adoption.
So, say you've decided to adopt a dog or cat of your own. Where do you start? First, you will need to decide where you will adopt from. The 2 main options available are breeders and animal shelters. Breeders breed purebred animals and usually charge more than adoption centers. People who adopt from breeders are usually looking for a dog or cat to serve a specific purpose in their life, more so dogs, usually hunting or herding, and this is why they are willing to spend a few extra pennies at a breeder. Breeders can be found everywhere, and most will have reviews from past adopters. Check online for breeders.
Animal shelters focus on rescuing and housing stray animals. Many get help to operate from the city and also somewhat rely on community volunteers. They try to keep the animals off the streets and in people's homes. Many will perform background checks on people applying for adoption to ensure that the animal goes to a good home. Unless you need a dog or cat for a specific purpose, I personally recommend using a shelter because you will be saving a life.
Also, a lot of shelters bring in a lot of animals without many being adopted. This burdens the shelter because they only have so many resources available to them to care for the animals. Adopting from a shelter helps alleviate this burden, as well as prove the system to be successful.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back with part 3 after a word from our sponsor.
You know, I really wish there was a radio station or show that played a real variety of music, something other than just a single genre over and over again.
If you want to hear a variety of music, just listen to Shuffle on TC Campus Connection. It's hosted by digital media instructor Chris, and he really knows his stuff. You name a genre, and Chris probably plays it.
Wow, so you're telling me I can hear a variety of genres?
Sure can. Something cool is always on, but for a variety of music, be sure to check out Shuffle.
Welcome back to Prominent Pets. So we've discussed the history and adoption methods surrounding dogs and cats, and now let's go over some success stories. Here are a few we found posted on the Bay Area Humane Society Facebook page. They post quite a few of these if you want to read more of them. This one is regarding a boxer mix named Marvin.
We love our dog Marvin, Jason at the time of adoption. He is loving towards our grown children and grandkids. He is doing very well with our blind cat, Dutters. We got Marvin after we lost our previous dog that I had adopted 8 years ago, Peepers. So Marvin had big paws to fill. Marvin has met a great deal of those, except for digging holes and chewing shoes. We love him to pieces. When we adopted him, it was well worth the wait from 7:30 in the morning till you opened at 2 p.m. I may not see your establishment for another 13 plus years, but I will continue to help in any way that I can. Thank you for all that you do. Wow, that is really cool.
Here is another one. Meet Loves. Just wanted to let you know Loves is settling in very nicely in our home. He is a huge lover and just wants someone near for pets, belly rubs, and chin scratches. No hissing or growling from either him or our cats from their sides of the door, so that is a relief. I think this will work out just fine. Still going slow to make sure we do it right, but all seems well. Just thought you'd like a little update on this sweet senior gentleman's first couple days in his new home. Wow, another awesome success story.
Another success story we can tell involves our newest puppy, Penny. We adopted her from the Bay Area Humane Society in February of 2017. She is a beagle mix who unfortunately had to endure a rough life until we rescued her. She was originally adopted by a family who had her for a short amount of time before she somehow broke her leg. They couldn't afford to bring her to the vet, so they returned her to the Humane Society. The Humane Society unfortunately had to amputate her leg. After doing so, they gave her to a foster home, which is basically someone who looks after the animals needing extra care. It turns out the foster home knew the original owners and were attempting to give her back to them. The Humane Society found this out and took her back from the foster home.
When she got brought back to the Humane Society, I would spend time with her going on walks and hanging out in her kennel, playing with her, talking to her. And finally it got to a point where I didn't think that I could leave her there, so I talked to Alex, I talked to our landlord, and we decided to bring her home.
That just warms my heart. Well, folks, that will do it for episode 1 of Prominent Pets, the podcast where we help people learn about all of the different household animals known as pets. Remember to subscribe to our podcast to ensure you stay current with our new episodes. Check back next week for episode 2, Small Animals. We'll be discussing pets such as hamsters, guinea pigs, ferrets, and rabbits.
Thanks for listening and have a great day.